Another edition of Riding Home. Look, Mississippi State, Matt, it's gonna be a night game at State. Everyone talks about the Cowbells. I don't find it overwhelmingly difficult to play there versus other places. But Georgia just came off this game with Tennessee. There's a lot going on. Your thoughts?
I think they're the clear number one team in the country, and I think they're going to have to prove that again. We saw them struggle against Missouri at night on the
Right,
road.
right,
The Cowbells
right.
are, they're going to make a little bit of an impact, but
Yeah,
Georgia's the deeper, more talented team. They have the better coaching, and I think the secondary, the way they've been playing, I don't think Mississippi State's going to score a whole lot. I think Todd Monken just needs to keep it simple, run the ball, run it more, run it again, and they should be able to push Mississippi State up and down the field. But uh, I think it could get a little tricky in that first quarter. I think those fans are going to be ready. And like we've said a lot this year, they're going to get everyone's number one shot. They're the number one
yeah.
team. They're the defending champions. Everyone's going to want to beat Georgia. We saw Missouri get up for the game. But Georgia's playing really, really well right now. I know Kirby said multiple times, we haven't played our best yet. I don't know if someone asked him about that after the Tennessee game. That's probably the best they've played all year. But I think if they keep it rolling, they should have no problem in Starkville.
All right, there's going to be times when Matt mutes, which is what it is. I think everybody understands that. Ryan, I'm not so sure that they played their best game against Tennessee. They played a good half, and then everybody just kind of shut the game down. That was kind of what happened there. Your thoughts as we get ready for a road game at night? You and I experienced that, and that was not fun at Mizzou for Georgia.
Yeah, I would still say that Georgia's best game was week one against Oregon.
I agree. I agree.
Offensively, I mean, even though they allowed 13 to Tennessee, I think you could totally argue that the Tennessee game was their best defensive performance. In fact, it was their best defensive performance because of how good their offense is. So it was one of their best performances. But, these guys, Kirby, David Pollock, all sorts of people in this world have reiterated over and over how hard it is to play on the road, not only in the SEC but in college football in general. It'll be a night game. I've never been. I love seeing new places, but I expect it to be a good atmosphere. They've got their one unique thing with the Cowbells, but Mississippi State's last week at home let Auburn come in there and put up 30
Yeah,
on them, and they had to beat
yeah,
them in overtime.
yeah.
So, and they do have a good offense. They have a unique offense, and Kirby did not want to call it the air raid on Monday, I believe, but it is an air raid offense. When you throw in the ball 50, 60 times in most of these games, that's an air raid, and that's what Mike Leach has been known for. With these types of offenses, you typically see a defense that also allows points, right? Because there's not that many complete teams in college football. So I don't see Mississippi State. I just don't see this becoming a shootout. I don't really see a repeat of what happened in Columbia, Missouri. Just because at this point in the season, Georgia's been through a lot. They get it. The players this week seem to be, like they're talking the same way that Kirby does, where we put Tennessee to bed on Sunday. Like it's on the Mississippi State. Like they're done talking about it. They're done thinking about it. I don't think the emotional factor will be that huge.
I do want to point out to everybody just real quick that we've got an event with Jeff Foxworthy Sunday, 2 o'clock at the Barnes and Noble at Perimeter Mall. Barnes and Noble, Perimeter Mall, Dean Legge, Jeff Foxworthy, Dog Post Crew. We're going to have the books there. If you want us to sign them for you, if you haven't seen it yet, you want to get it. This is a great opportunity. I want to bring everybody back in now. Matt, this Georgia team, I think everyone agrees is the best team in the country. I think the question is, for me, how will they react? Will there be a drop off, a letdown going on the road? When I wrote about it in Final Feelings for me, as well as our five for Friday, God, there's a lot of content. I counted 7 stories on Monday and 7 and 8 on Tuesday, something like that. If you're not going to Dog Post, even if you're not a member, I would encourage you to go there to read. I know y'all are because I can see the numbers. But Matt, I forgot where I was going there because I started promoting the website. What were we talking about? What was I saying? I was talking
A
about.
letdown, a
Just
letdown.
Yeah, I mean,
bringing that effort.
Well, I
I mean,
wrote that I wonder, Matt, if Tennessee will have a letdown. They're gonna win on Saturday against Missouri, but that's a good defense. What's Georgia getting into at State? I mean, are they going to be fully prepared to go out and execute? That's my question.
well, if you hear his pregame locker room speeches, he's ready to get this team going, and this team embodies physicality and toughness. And he said that travels. And Georgia's got that winning DNA. He talked about that earlier in his press conference.
Yeah.
Listen, Michigan's last loss was to Georgia. Tennessee's last loss to Georgia. Oregon's last loss to Georgia. Not only are they beating teams, but they're bullying teams. And that travels on the road. That winning culture and DNA is going to be there in Starkville. They just have to play their ball. And again, Kirby's really preaching it to this team, I think, more than some of his teams in years past. Hey, bring that effort, that toughness. No one's going to push us around. No one, we're not going to be hunted. We're still the hunter. We're going to go out and get after it, play our style of football. Yeah, I know. And I think that's going to travel to Mississippi State. At least it should. And if you're the number one team in the country, like it looks like they clearly are by a nice little margin, I would say, over Ohio State and Michigan, they should have no problem, especially if they continue to play tough, play by play, do their job, and bring that physicality that this team is kind of being known for right now.
Ryan, your comments?
I think over the next 2 weeks it's tough because you just exerted a lot of energy going down to Jacksonville and then playing who was supposedly the number one team in the country in Tennessee at home. There's a lot of emotional, physical, just energy and all exerted over the last couple of weeks. So this is not easy, even if Mississippi State and Kentucky are significantly worse than Georgia. I kind of see, like, if they're gonna have some adversity, I kind of think it'll be up in Lexington. I have a hard time seeing it be really against either. They're just better, and that's the way we talk about each matchup almost. They're just better than everybody else,
They
right? Like
are.
there's not a game on their schedule they should lose, and that doesn't exclude these two games. I wouldn't freak out if there was a little bit of, like in the first half, or if Mississippi State gets a quick touchdown or two, because at the end of the day, I was a little surprised that Tennessee didn't accomplish that against Georgia. Now, it was in their home crowd and everything. So if that happens against Mississippi State, like it's just next play, they should outscore Mississippi State straight up. But Mississippi State's not putting up like over 24 points on this Georgia team. But I wouldn't be surprised if they grab a couple touchdowns.
Well, so just real quick too, State played both the games that I'm going to reference right now on the road, but the best two teams they played this year have been LSU, where they scored 16 points, and they scored 6 against Alabama. Now, those were on the road. I think we've talked about this a lot. And by the way, I don't appreciate Kirby stealing all of the things that I say. I, I'm not the only person that's been talking about playing on the road is difficult. Or David Pollock, I guess, David and Reese and all them. But Kirby's stealing my stuff about when you can't hear, you can't hear. Now, I've been saying that for 20 years. Because like him, although I'm not coaching, thank God, I'm on the sideline, and the truth is, when you can't hear anything, you can't hear anything. Copyright Dean Legge, 2002. Okay, I will be sending him a check, or he needs to be sending me a check. But um, here, I think at State, it's slightly different. It's not as loud at State as it is at other places. That Davis Wade is not a stadium that is extremely large. I think I said, I said Davis Wade Stadium. I hope I did. I may have said Wade Davis, but it is Davis Wade Stadium, and there's not a hyphen, insofar as I can tell. This stadium used to be very small, and when we went there in 2005, it was tiny. But they, over time, have grown the stadium. It's about 60,000. It's just north of 62,000 people. So it's not as small as it once was, but it's not a big place. I mean, when you think about it, it's going to be two-thirds of the size of the place that Georgia plays at home. It will be smaller than Kentucky. It's 20,000 seats fewer than South Carolina. The only other thing, though, Ryan, Matt, Georgia only played 2 road games so far this year, and that was Missouri and South Carolina. I mean, we were all at Carolina, and they took them out of the game immediately. everybody's got PSTD, I'm post-traumatic stress syndrome of um, of the Missouri game. We've seen that a lot nationally. Ohio State talking about, but the Missouri game, well, but the way you played against Northwestern, okay, Michigan, but the way you played this past week against Rutgers, you're going to play games that are not, you don't play well. Um, I just think, Matt, to me, they're the better team, and we can talk about the Missouri game all we want. When are we going to stop talking about the South Carolina game in 2019 when Georgia hosts a home game? I mean, they kick everybody's brains in all the time. That is the normal part. The abnormal thing is what happened with South Carolina. The abnormal thing is what happened with Missouri this year. Those are not normal. We can keep talking about the abnormalities, but the steady pace of Georgia is the problem that everybody's running into. You've got to beat them for 60 minutes. It's just not fun.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. You can, play with Georgia for a half, sometimes, 3/4 if you're a really good team. And I think Mississippi State is a much better team at home than they are. I mean, they look really bad against Alabama on the road. I thought this was a pretty good team early in the season when they beat Arkansas and Texas A&M at the time. I thought those were two really impressive wins, solid wins. But since then, they've lost to Kentucky by 10. Alabama, I think they lost that game by like 24 points. They scored at the very end. Right. And they beat a bad Auburn team in overtime at home. This is not a good football team.
No,
they may
you're
have
talking
like
about State.
Earlier. Yeah, State.
They're not good.
a good team. But like Ryan said, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they played their absolute best and hung around with Georgia for at least the first quarter, maybe the half. But talent is going to win out. Coaching, depth. Georgia kind of checks every box. They're better than Mississippi State at, and they're coming for a mission. And nothing's easy on the road, right? But Georgia's been able to go on the road and command and play their ball. And again, if you're the number one team, like everyone is talking about, there's a lot of rat poison this week. You got to end up playing like it. So we'll see. I mean, is Mississippi State better than Missouri?
Ryan?
They're on the same level, though, right?
They're kind of in that same tier for me.
I mean, so let's just review. State beat Memphis at home by a considerable margin. They went on the road to beat Arizona. They lost to LSU by 17. I think, what is that? 15 on the road. They beat Bowling Green at home by a significant margin. Then they crushed Texas A&M. Now, what we didn't know at the time was that Texas A&M was just not good. They beat Arkansas 40-17. But these last three games are the ones to me that are the most concerning. I mean, they got punked by Kentucky. Punked them. They beat them 27-17. Then they lost to Alabama on the road, 30-6. They are not a good road team. They won one road game. And then this past week, they nearly lost to Auburn. Ryan, I mean, I don't know if you were there while we were watching that. They're inconsistent. They're not bad at any one thing, except they have a fair amount of penalties. They're averaging, about 70 yards a game in penalty, and they're not good on rushing the offense. But other than that, they're kind of in the middle 40s. What I mean to say is that not the top third of the NCAAs, not the bottom third, but kind of in the middle section of teams statistically just everywhere. We know they're going to throw it. We know they're not going to try to run it. It's the penalties to me that are just that's a sign of not a very good team.
Yeah, well, Georgia's a disciplined football team, and all those categories that Mississippi State's, they're not bad in. Georgia's either really, really good or elite in, and they're really, really good or elite in pretty much every category you could come up with, whether it be statistical or just from a football sense. Right? And they're just significantly better than them. I don't think an event like what happened in Missouri will happen again. For a team like this and a program like this, that doesn't really happen twice. And it kind of half happened against Kent State at home. And then you go to Missouri and struggle. But there were a lot of positive takeaways out of that Missouri game that people don't talk about ever. It's only the negative because they're box score people that want to look at that. But when you go in there, you're disciplined. They don't care about the number one ranking. I mean, they look at stuff. Kirby doesn't care about it. He doesn't use that whatsoever. I don't think I would be surprised if he talks about it at all throughout the week. Using that number 3 next to their name, maybe he mentioned that last week because that's different. But they're used to being number 1 at this point. This program has been in this position before. This isn't new. Like, they didn't all of a sudden just become number 1. They were number 1 for the bulk of this year in the AP poll. They were number 1 for several weeks last year. They won the national championship. The rat poison thing for a program under Kirby Smart that's as disciplined as it is, I don't think exists. So when you go into Mississippi State and you're better than them in every single category, I don't see how, maybe they score a little bit, but I mean, it should be domination again.
Yeah, I'm not certain they score, Matt. I don't know. How do you see? I mean, you don't think State's very good. Um, I think the problem is when you can't do multiple things on offense against Georgia, you're in trouble. That's my take.
Yeah, well, Georgia's got a punter too that can punt it 75 yards. So I mean, they're elite there. I told Ryan up in the press box that's maybe the best punt I've ever seen in my life, and I don't think we even touched on it at riding home. But even when Georgia doesn't move the ball and they have to punt, they can win the field position game with anyone with that guy. So I do think it is going to be really tough for Mississippi State to, again, drive the field. It's really tough to drive the field and have an extended possession and score on these guys. You have to be explosive, and it doesn't seem like Mississippi State is as explosive offensively as they have in years past. I think they're going to score. There's just always maybe a play or two, or late in the game, they give up a touchdown with the second stringers in or something like that. So I don't think it's going to be a shutout. Maybe score in the first quarter wouldn't surprise me, and then maybe nothing else until the very end. But I think a shutout is Kirby's. That's so tough, even against a Kent State or Samford or Arkansas State or Vanderbilt, right? Or South Carolina, whoever. It's always tough. So I don't think they're going to get a shutout. It could happen, but I think Mississippi State should be able to score something.
I don't think Georgia's going to score 40. I think
I
that's the
don't either.
part. Yeah, I think that's the part that's I'm just sitting here looking at Georgia's schedule at 49-33 in a game that was a running clock in the fourth quarter. That was a 12-minute fourth quarter. I mean, you would have had to sprint to score in the fourth against Samford. It wasn't going to happen. So 49-33, 48-39, 26-42, 55-42, 27. I just my view is State's defense is not bad. They hang in there pretty good actually. But I think the challenge it's not can you score 40. I mean, that's State has the most that State has allowed this season is, if I'm not mistaken, is 33, which was an overtime game with Auburn. That's not an ideal situation. You have to wonder if State if Auburn, Ryan, is scoring 33 in Starkville. It's technically Mississippi State, Mississippi is the address. I don't which is different, I guess. It used to be University, Mississippi, or maybe Ole Miss is University, Mississippi, and not Oxford. But anyway, if Auburn has scored 33 in overtime at State, what does that mean for Georgia?
Well, you said I can't remember which one you said it, but you don't think they would score 40.
I don't think I'm skeptical that Georgia will score 40 this week. Yeah.
Well, I've got a video where I go in depth about this, but Georgia, what's impressive about this Georgia team is they can make the game whatever they want it to be. Right?
That is the truth.
They go in there every week and they decide here's how we're going to play, and it's just a matter of what they're trying to do. We're not in the locker room. We don't know the game plan. 40-ish is what I would predict. I haven't.
Oh, you think so?
Final
Okay.
score. Yeah, but just because they just have so much momentum right now, and the offense seems to be clicking. It looked like it was clicking last week, but they go into these games, Oregon. They go in there, and we said we're just going to fly down the field on you. We're just going to fly down the field on you, and we're going to bend but not break on defense. And then against Tennessee, it was we're just going to swallow you up on defense and take the easy points when we get them. So, week to week, the game plan is completely different, and that's why this Georgia team is so hard to beat because they're like a chameleon where, you know, the colors of the game show and they just adapt to whatever it is, and the other team is just playing catch up.
I think
Uh,
to win the game, if you told Kirby, hey, you have to score 40 or 45 or 50, they would do it. But we heard in the post game after Tennessee, he said, we play to win the game. When you're up 3 scores, get the game over, right? So I think if Georgia does go up 31-6 or something like that, and it's the second half, just get the game over with at that point. Don't worry about anyone getting injured late or anything like that. And get some second-year guys in there, some third stringers in. But at the end of the day, when the game needs to be wrapped up, they have the ability to do that. They can run the ball. Everyone knows they're going to run the ball. They're going to get tough yards, crank out first downs. And we saw that in the third quarter. And I know the rain had something to do with that also. But they took 9 minutes off the clock, and everyone knew that's what they were trying to do. So I think once they get into the 30s and it's a 3-possession ball game, I think they're just going to run this bad boy out and get home.
Hey, speaking of, listen, I don't know if y'all can see that right there, but that's yet another order for the event that we're having with Kelee Ringo. This is an awesome event. That means there's one fewer. It's on Sunday the 20th. We're going to run out of spaces. You get 3 signed items, whatever those 3 are, and you get a book and you get a photo with Kelee Ringo. Now, listen, we're not going to be talking to Kelee for 15 minutes each. That's not what this is. We are going to keep it moving. But I mean, I'll be there. Ryan will be there. Brooks probably will not be there, is what I'm guessing, because it's a school night. Yeah. But I think make sure y'all are getting those now, because I mean, I'm just being honest with you. We're going to run out of them, and it's just what it is. I think if you really want to go, it's a really, really good value. Now, that said, I think the thing about Georgia in our time here wrapping up that I played basketball in college and I played tennis in college. It's a strange combination, but because of that, I know a lot of the tennis world. And Georgia right now is very much prime Roger Federer. And what does that mean? It means that he's really, really good. And there's probably one guy that can beat him who's really, really good too and plays a particular way, which is Rafael Nadal. I think for Georgia, if you want to hit it from the baseline, you can do that. If you want to serve and volley, you can do that. Matt knows what I'm talking about. If you want to just, try to blast it, the whole time, with your serve, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of different ways that Georgia can win the game. And last week, if you listen to what Kirby said in the post game on SEC Inside, he said, "Hey, look, we took the ball away from you, Stetson. Yeah, but they killed the clock for 8.5 minutes or whatever it was. In the game, I kept looking at the clock thinking, hey, Tennessee can score real quick and they can score at any moment. It was just asking way too much for Tennessee to do that. This is a scary Georgia team. They can beat you with their defense. They can beat you with their offense. We got some kicker rolling out here, coffin cornering it, Ryan, from 75 yards away. Why can't your Falcons do that?
Why are you going there?
Because we got a big game tonight with your Panthers
We
and your
do.
Falcons.
It is a huge game, and
It is.
I don't know. Like, I was all for the tank. And now it's too late. It's too late to tank. So now I'm rooting for wins, and when I'm rooting for wins, it becomes a very frustrating thing to deal with when you're talking about the Falcons. So I'm on edge.
Hey, real birds play in Atlanta, baby. I don't want to hear about those birds in Philly. Real birds play in Atlanta. Let's go.
You see that little guy right there? Let me give you some
He's
fatherly
cursed.
advice. Let me give you
Child's
no,
cursed.
he's not. See, he's looking out. He knows what I'm about to say. Don't curse him with the Falcons, Matt.
He has
Don't
to.
do it.
If it's family tradition. My dad did it to me. I'm going to do it to this little guy.
I want to
We're going
thank
to
my
fight through
father.
it.
I want to thank my father, Jerry, for never infecting me with the stupidity of the Atlanta Falcons. We would come home from church, we would get ice cream and stuff, and I would have to subjugate myself to watching these guys play, and they were not good. They were not good. And y'all are still, 3 of y'all on here are doing this to yourselves. Stop
That's the
it.
happiest he's looked the whole video.
He's talking about the Falcons. It's bird talk, Matt.
Yeah.
Bird talk. No, look, I think Georgia is going to win this game. I don't know about the 16 and a half. But Ryan, what'd you have?
Oh, yeah, 16 and a half.
Okay.
Easy,
Matt?
easy.
Okay, Matt.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say it. It's in final feelings too. That y'all can read over on Dog Post. I think I said 35-13. So that's more than
That's a
15.
pretty solid. That's an 18-point
Yeah,
win. Even
yeah.
those of us who went to public schools in Metro Atlanta know.
Kennesaw State, baby. Did my math.
That is not an 18-point win.
35
That's
minus what was
22.
the score?
That's 22.
What did you
Yeah,
say?
35-13.
That's a
Yeah.
22
Oh
point
no,
win.
yeah, that's just 22. See, DeKalb County Public
Kennesaw State
Schools.
math. There we
Thank you.
go.
Let's
Yeah.
go. Hey, let's go. Coker College, Koker. All right. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll be with Jeff, Perimeter Mall, Barnes and Noble. We really appreciate everybody watching. Brooks is going to go take a nap.